Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are through 8 games of the season, and Ole Miss has hit 500. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thanks for joining the POMcast right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. We appreciate you stopping by. We're going to do a little bit today. We're going to put finishing touches on the Egg Bowl. We're going to talk about this week's line. Ole Miss has a bye this week, and all signs point to them playing Texas A&M on the 12th and LSU on the 19th. It hasn't been released yet, but those are the expected dates for those games. They are going to make them up. We're going to be able to, barring something COVID related, get all the games in this year. And that's what the SEC is trying to do, to reshuffle in order to get every game in so they can get all their TV money. That's the reason LSU and Alabama is playing this week. LSU can't play next week because they have Florida. Alabama can't play on the 19th because they have the SEC championship game. So December 5th became the option. And they scheduled, and that's the reason they moved stuff around. That's the reason Ole Miss and LSU was affected for December 5th, along with Mississippi State and Missouri. They're just trying to get them in. The good news is football season's going to last a little bit longer. The conference slate goes all the way to December 19th. That's 3 weeks longer than it normally would. You go straight into bowl week, and they start happening around that time as well. That goes into January, and then you have the break to get ready for next year, which next year should be pretty close to back to normal when it comes to college sports, thanks to the vaccines and things like that. So, again, my name is Stephen Willis. I'm coming to you live from the palatial Central Florida studios for the first POMcast in these friendly confines. No soundproofing is up, so that's probably why it sounds a little bit different. Right now, sound is kind of bouncing off of multiple surfaces at once, so just bear with me there. We're going to do this for about 3 weeks. We're going to move in full-time after the new year, but I'm down here for about 3 weeks. And so I will continue to give this to you, this POMcast daily. So, Ole Miss 31, Mississippi State 24, the Egg Bowl. The game played out like Ole Miss was up by 3 touchdowns. Ole Miss only won by a touchdown, but everything played out like Mississippi State had no chance to win. That's actually how the game was called. That's actually how the flow went. Now, I'm not talking about your own neurosis about Ole Miss and we are Ole Miss and all that garbage that I just don't have time for. I'm talking about what really happened. Now, I understand that when it got down to Ole Miss ahead by 3 points, at that point, a slip by the defensive backs, explosive play, all of a sudden Mississippi State has the lead. But they showed no chance, no hope of doing that. Everything they did was about slow and methodically moving down the field. That's how they scored every one of their points. They were not explosive in the slightest. And the game bared out that way. Look at it like this. Ole Miss was 2 drop passes away from winning by 3 touchdowns. And that's how the game played out. It really played out like they caught those balls. And you had a true freshman quarterback in Will Rogers on the other side, who had a heck of a game, by the way. Not taking anything away from him. Him and Jaden Walley both had really good games. But so many people want to harp on the negatives, and they want to criticize what happens as, well, honestly, because they don't know how to talk about it otherwise. They don't want to sound like too much of a homer, So we've got to talk negative about what happened. The fact of the matter is the Egg Bowl went about like it's supposed to go. We were 2 drop passes away from that, making that a complete blowout. In that first series, I really think nerves were to blame for the Braylon Sanders 4th down drop. The Elijah Moore drop would have been a tough catch anyway. But the fact of the matter is Ole Miss played its D game and could have blown out Mississippi State. You can take moral victories. You can do whatever you need to do if you're a State fan, but that's the fact. And if you are happy with only losing by 7, that's a moral victory in the Egg Bowl, and you're taking a moral victory against your rival, which you should never do. Now, you can be happy about the quarterback play. You can be happy about the wide receiver play. You can even be happy about the defense, although I saw things online like Zach Arnett schooled Kiffin, and we gained 550 yards, scored 31 points. If that's a school, we aced it. But, that's the way it goes. People are trying to find spins to fit their agenda. You either are good or you're not. You either lost, but they're looking for ways to bring the Ole Miss win down and not the performance by their guys. The problem is, in this Egg Bowl series, and this is the way it would always be, and it will always be both sides, you can't take a loss without trying to bring down the other side's win in order to make yourself look better. And, it just doesn't work. The fact of the matter is Will Rogers played well and Jaden Walley played well. And the defense played well when they had energy. By the 4th quarter, they were gassed. That's the reason we were pounding the run down the field. And that's the reason that offensive line was able to push them in the way they did. And basically just put away the Egg Bowl because, Mississippi State's going to have to go 75 yards, and they're going to have 5 minutes to do it, and they have to score twice. They weren't going to be able to do that. So everything kind of played out according to plan, especially Egg Bowls. If you were expecting a blowout, that was folly. If you were expecting a Mississippi State win, that was folly. The reality is the Ole Miss was about 7 to 10 points better in this game because of all the emotion. I'm Stephen Willis, POMcast, segment 2 coming up. Thanks for listening.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, welcome back. The POMcast right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. Again, if you want to follow us, hit us up at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. You can also catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. Join our Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss. You can also catch us on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. You'll know when we're streaming live. And also, we're on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. If audio is more of your thing, you can catch us there. We are on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. We're also on a lot of minor podcatchers as well. I would list them out, but it would take all day. Just search Positively Ole Miss. If we come up, we're there. And again, thanks for listening. We are in the first segment, in this segment, kind of putting the finishing touches on the Egg Bowl, the battle for the golden egg. And we went into break just kind of saying it finished about where you expected this game to finish. Ole Miss was far superior as a team. And it bared true all during the game. I mean, you could just see it happening. And Ole Miss was more explosive. Everything came easier to Ole Miss. State had to work for everything they got because they had a personnel deficiency. And that's the way this really works. What Mississippi State is trying to do, and Zach Arnett is trying to mask their deficiencies. Their offense is trying to mask its deficiencies. I mean, that's the way it works. Mike Leach didn't become a good coach by not knowing how to do that. So this game was always going to finish between 7 and 10. And you had Jerry and Ely rush for 91 yards. Elijah Moore caught the ball for 140, 12 catches, most in an Egg Bowl. Also, he passed A.J. Brown for the single-season record for receptions with, I think, 85 or 86 in Game 8. He's gone over double-digit catches in 7 of the 8 games. So the fact is they're consciously trying to get him the ball, which that makes sense because he is our best player. So that is the offense. Now, we are pretty much in position now. We have Texas A&M, like I said, on the 12th and LSU on the 19th. And LSU's best receiver that they have left is opted out for the rest of the year right before the Alabama game. That makes hilarious sense because you don't want that whooping. And basically they're starting true freshmen at quarterback and not really Will Rogers true freshmen. They're true freshmen. Neither one of them are really making plays. And we're dealing with a defense that has now gotten Otis Reese eligible. And granted, Mississippi State isn't the running juggernaut of some teams. But having the physical presence on the outside on one side to match Sam Williams on the other effectively shut down their zone scheme on offense. Also, Ole Miss was playing with one defensive lineman for most of the day. One. Sam Williams moved down and played in. They played, you saw Cedric Johnson got the sack. They were playing 2 outside linebacker DNs, basically, 2 bucks, with a nose guard to battle the Mike Leach system. Because they knew they didn't have to worry really about running the ball, and they just put people in there to rush the passer. And you saw that Ole Miss rarely only rushed 3. There was a 4th man coming. They took my advice. Not really my advice. They came up with that on their own. But, always take credit. That's rule number one. And Otis Reese on the outside, it just does a nice job of setting the edge. And we'll see it a little bit more whenever they play Texas A&M next week. Otis Reese is a very physical player. He had 8 tackles and a pass breakup in his first action. He's our best player on the defense. He is a Tony Connor clone. And he plays so physical. He likes the contact. So Otis Reese versus Isaiah Spiller, that kind of looks like it could be something. Let's see. What else is going on? What else happened in that game? The defense, I thought, played fairly well, even against Mississippi State. Straighten that back out. Even against Mississippi State, who has struggled offensively, they actually played quite well. Like last week against Mississippi State, you saw the air raid starting to grow, and they just kind of moved the ball on Georgia, and just, it's a different air raid now than it was 4 weeks ago. I mean, there's no harm in saying that. And Will Rogers is right now, a good decision maker, which is probably the most important thing that's going on during all of this, is they wanted the ball to go to the right place. Whether it's completed or not, that's another story, but they wanted it to go to the right place. And Will Rogers seemingly does that. And I think that should just about do it on that. Ole Miss 31, Mississippi State 24. The Egg Bowl in the books. 2 games left to go, plus a bowl game, because Ole Miss is at a minimum at this point going to the Liberty Bowl. And at a maximum could end up somewhere down in Florida. Maybe an Outback or a Gator, something like that. So that's something to look forward to. The Las Vegas Bowl went off the table this year, but Ole Miss will be in a position to travel. One more win will wrap up a 500 season for them, which they'll be favored against LSU, and they will not be favored against Texas A&M, who is ranked 5th or 6th in the country playing for the playoff. They did not look great, by the way, this weekend against LSU. And it's probably not a good sign when LSU's defense does that to you. But I see a lot of stuff with LSU also that I've seen before. Like many of you, if you don't know, I was the video guy at Ole Miss when Ed Orgeron was there. And I see a lot of the same problems and a lot of the same solutions that he did when he was here. And we both know that turned into a dumpster fire. And it ended with many happy returns. Remember many happy returns? Derek Pegues taking the punt back. That's how it ended. And Orgeron, asking Chuck Rounsaville if he'd heard anything, because he's got snakes in the brain, and it was all weird. It was very weird. But we all know how Orgeron went at Ole Miss, but I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff happening now that's happening then. Everybody's going to say, well, he worked really hard. Well, it's kind of like those eels with 2 sets of jaws, and the more you struggle, the more it latches on. It's kind of like that. If you don't know, you don't know. Also, the Iron Bowl over the weekend turned into a blowout. Missouri beat Vanderbilt 41-0. Derek Mason got fired, so that's 2 SEC coaches. My money on replacement is either Josh Gaddis or Mike McIntyre. One of those two. Because they don't want to go back to the Franklin era of Vanderbilt football so much, but they want the wins that only he provided. So they need to find the next James Franklin. And if they do that, you have a chance to win some ball games. Jordan Rodgers and everything, they need to invest in the program. Go get one of these assistants and pour money into facilities. That's the way this works. You don't have to end up with one of the top guys. Just go out and get the guy that's the right guy and come back with money for facilities. Because if you hire a coach that's making $2 to $2.5 million a year, take that extra $1 million a year and just pour it into facilities. That's the way that works. It's not hard. Maybe Tim Corbin, who knows, needs another batting cage. Who knows? But Derek Mason, a great defensive coordinator, and by all accounts, a class guy. I'm going to miss him in the SEC. He should be unemployed for about 15 minutes, though. It's the way that works. He's a heck of a coach. He's a good guy. He's going to be able to find his own job and move on. All right, POMcast segment 2 in the books. Segment 3 coming up. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
POMcast, Stephen Willis right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. We're going to do a little bit of lines. We're also going to point out some things. We're going to have some fun. Right now, according to Pro Football Focus, Jeremy James graded out as the number 3 offensive line at 85.8. So that's pretty good. That's Jeremy James, number 3 offensive line in the country at 85.8. And let's see, what else? Also, Cole Kublett's weekday tweet basically about Ole Miss. He says, every Egg Bowl win is huge for Kiffin and company. Now 3 in a row for this team. Corral and Moore continue to light it up. Felt like the shot slowed down and let State creep back in. 13 was great off the edge, as Sam Williams. Needed more snap versus that system. Reese made a difference, did a lot, Otis Reese. Just like we told you, when it comes to Otis Reese, he's going to fit in that Tony Connor role. He's the one that's going to allow them to do a lot of what they're doing. But you need that special player in that position. So, TV schedule next week. Texas A&M at Auburn, noon on ESPN. Arkansas at Missouri, noon on SEC Network. Florida at Tennessee on CBS. Vanderbilt at Georgia on SEC Network at 4. South Carolina at Kentucky at 7:30, 6:30 Central on SEC Network. And the nightcap is the Alabama versus LSU game. Yeah, it should be fantastic. Should be some good stuff. That's the TV network, TV game for TV schedule for next week. Now, Ole Miss isn't playing next week. I know according to the schedule they're supposed to play LSU, but they moved it to get the LSU-Alabama game in. It hasn't been released yet, but know that they haven't canceled those games. On the 12th is going to be Ole Miss and A&M, and on the 19th will be Ole Miss and LSU. So just be patient. Just be patient. And we'll look at opening lines from this weekend. Texas A&M favored by 4 at Auburn. Texas A&M a road favorite. Of course, after Auburn got boat raced by Bama, that's kind of a scary line. But there's always a possibility that Auburn pulls off the upset there. Florida is favored by 18 on the road at Tennessee. The Gators going to Neyland. That seems like an easy cover. Tennessee just doesn't have the offense to score with modern offenses. Vanderbilt at Georgia. Georgia at home is favored by 35. Take the points. I wouldn't be surprised if Vandy just didn't want to play. Kentucky favored by 13 versus South Carolina. Arkansas at Missouri. Missouri is favored by 1, and Alabama is favored by 25 on the road at LSU. Can you imagine a scenario where you are a 4-touchdown underdog in Tiger Stadium to somebody you're playing? That's crazy. Again, Terrence Marshall also for LSU has opted out. So he just opted out before the Bama game, which is smart. No sense going through it, but there's problems in LSU right now. They have some issues, a little bit of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Shows how valuable Joe Burrow, Brady, and especially Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because he was the one that really made that offense versatile and tough to stop. I mean, just he is the underrated member of that team. Joe Burrow was good, Joe Brady was good, but the person that made the offense tick was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And now they just have, some Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis type running backs back there, but they don't have the Swiss Army knife that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And they look like they're going to be the first team in history to win the national championship and then have a losing record the next year. So congratulations, LSU. It couldn't happen to a better bunch of guys. Hey, look at the bright side. You have the remnants of Our Lady of the Lake to deal with and a sexual assault scandal. So bad things happening to bad people. So that's pretty good. But no Ole Miss game this weekend. I mean, it should have been LSU, but push that off to where more people just quit. And there's a chance that Ole Miss goes down there and just runs them out of the stadium. And LSU on offense is not dangerous at all at the moment. And just feel bad for them. Mississippi State got bit too. The Missouri game that was supposed to be this weekend got rescheduled. So they'll play them on the 12th or the 19th, depending on when the Auburn game is scheduled, I believe. But they're trying to get all the SEC games in, so it's necessitating them moving them around. That's the reason they're doing this. I'm Stephen Willis. Thanks for listening today. I will see you tomorrow.